Welcome to Creative Living with Jamie. I'm your host, Jamie Ridler of Jamie Ridler Studios. On this program, I'll be talking to a wide range of creative independent spirits in order to bring you inspiration, stories, and strategies for bringing creativity to life. I hope you'll join me every week. Who knows, one day I might just be talking to you.
Hey everybody. Do you ever notice how there are times in life when certain themes or trends or symbols show up again and again and again? You know the kind of thing I mean, right? Everywhere you turn, there seems to be a message about letting go. Or perhaps you keep encountering birds. Actual birds, songs about birds, stories about birds. I make it a practice to open up my eyes and my heart to this kind of message. In fact, I'd say that almost everything I create springs out of this kind of active listening. And right now, there seems to be one thing that is showing up with a great deal of intensity, and that is deer. Yep, I said deer. My goodness, not a common thing to be talking about here in Toronto, but it has been quite a phenomenon lately. For Journal Club, we pick an animal guide every season, and the deer card literally jumped out of the deck to be chosen. I've been receiving emails from plenty of people in the studio not associated with Journal Club in all different locations, all sharing with me some extraordinary encounter with deer. Deer in unexpected places, deer appearances at deeply significant times. There was even a deer sighting near me, and in the busy urban streets of Toronto, that doesn't happen very often. And even more extraordinary than that, during our live studio forum, a deer was born in a studio member's yard. Yeah, so right there, we were in the forum and she typed into the chat, there is a deer being born on my front lawn right now. What? So deer is asking for attention. When an energy like this shows up, especially with such great clarity, I encourage you to turn to the powerful resource of your intuition before you turn to the internet. Your instincts are good, and they'll get better the more you tune in and trust them. So let's use deer as an example. If you've been noticing a lot of rabbits or opossums or coyotes, well, then use that. And they don't have to show up physically to count. We're noticing energy here. So it could be in songs, in conversation, in pictures, in books you're reading. So pick an animal. I'm going to work with deer. Here are 3 questions to help you tune in to your intuition when things like this show up. So using deer, what comes up for you when you think of deer? What associations do you have with this animal? If deer is here with a message for you, what do you think it might be? These are questions you can take to your journal no matter what it is that's showing up. Let's try them again on the letting go example. Let's say you've been hearing songs about letting go, watching movies about letting go, having conversations about letting go, and you know this is something to pay attention to. Follow the same 3 questions. What comes up for you when you think of letting go? What associations do you have with letting go? And if letting go is showing up as a message for you, what do you think that message is? There are always insights and discoveries to be made when things show up in our life repeatedly. I offer up these questions to you as tools you can add to your creative living toolkit. Questions you can use to start the conversation. And speaking of conversations, I am so delighted to share with you today my chat with artist Mario A. Robinson. But first, a little bit of studio news. In the studio, we have just crossed the threshold into the last live course of the summer. I can't believe it. The course is The Art of the Altar. We've just begun to explore the power and possibility of creating a personal altar space in your home or in your studio. Step by step, we're going to journey to each of the 4 directions, creating new aspects of our altar as we go, and deepening what we know about what calls us, what excites us, what amuses us, and what delights us. And it's not too late to join in. Just head on over to openthedoor.ca and click on the Academy for classes. And just a quick note to let you know that whenever you sign up for a class at Jamie Riddler Studios, you get ongoing access. Your journey can move at your pace in your time. Registration, though, well, that's only open for the season. So right now, the summer classes will be available until about mid-August. And then a new set of classes will come in for the fall. Oh my gosh, did I already say the word fall? Let us get on with this interview before I take that any further. I first came across the work of Mario A. Robinson in the documentary Truth, and it's available for viewing on Vimeo, and I'll link to it in the show notes. You have to watch it. I was absolutely spellbound. When I saw Mario's portraits, I got weepy. And when I heard him speak, I was captivated. I knew I had to have him on the show. I'm so glad he said yes. Mario studied at the prestigious Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York, and he is a regular contributor to The Artist Magazine, Watercolor Magazine, and Fine Art Connoisseur. He's a brand ambassador for Winsor Newton Art Materials, and he conducts workshops nationally and internationally throughout the year, and also teaches a really popular class on Craftsy, which is a resource I know that many of you know about, and yes, I will be sure to link to that class too. Mario's also written a book called Lessons in Realistic Watercolor, a contemporary approach to painting people and places in the classical tradition. Now, I have to admit that I originally bought the book because I just loved Mario's paintings so much, and this way I could enjoy so many of them. But then I found myself truly caught by the depth and generosity of what he shares, from essential studio practices to the composition of subjects to mastering the color wheel. This book is rich, and so is our conversation. I'm so looking forward to sharing it. But let me just say before we start that we did have some audio challenges with this interview. We've done our very, very best to clean it up. And we did consider the possibility of re-recording, but both Mario and I felt that the life and the truth and the spontaneity of our conversation was where it's at. So I hope you'll feel the same. Enjoy this time with Mario. Hey there, Mario. Welcome to Creative Living with Jamie.
Hello, Jamie. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to talk to you. I have been re-immersing myself in your book, Lessons in Realistic Watercolor, this morning, and sort of like drinking in the vibe. And I'm so excited to chat with you, and I've got tons of questions for you.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm ready to answer anything you might have about watercolor or being an artist or just anything. So shoot away.
Great. So why don't we start off with you just telling us a little bit about you and about your creative life?
Okay. So I'll take you back to the beginning so we can go forward.
Okay.
My artistic gift was discovered in 5th grade by a homeroom teacher, and we were working on an open house project. And my challenge, along with another students, was to draw the presidents of the United States from these big flashcards. So he started drawing in pen, I started sketching in pencil, and she said, let's let Mario do about 30 of them. So that was my first unofficial art show. I had no idea that I could draw at that time. Fast forward to the next year, which would have been 6th grade, I was introduced into a talented and gifted program. My art teacher's dream school was Pratt Institute. I had no idea what Pratt Institute was. Turns out it's a very prestigious art school in Brooklyn, New York. And we started working on my portfolio for the 4 years I was with her, 5 years rather. And I was accepted into the fine art program at Pratt Institute on a full scholarship. So at 5th grade, I kind of like begins and ends one chapter of my life, and it begins another chapter. I kind of lost my childhood, and everything was about the art from there on.
Wow. So how has that loss of childhood impacted your art and your relationship to your art?
It actually gave me, I wasn't the biggest kid in school. I was very, very, very skinny, rail like, tall, skinny kid. So people just assumed that I was going to be athletic, and that didn't happen. So I was searching for my identity prior to discovering my art, and it actually gave me something to focus on. It gave me esteem. So I'm very grateful that it was discovered. I'm a person that I like projects. I like things that I can focus on. So to have to focus on my art, and now with it being my livelihood,
Hmm.
uh, it really has given me a life that I wasn't searching for. I had no idea that it was living in me. And I'm grateful that it has become such an overwhelming part of my life.
That question of searching for your identity takes me to something that I wanted to ask you about finding your subject. You know,
Mm.
how did you find your subject as an artist? And then also, I know that you're also a teacher. How do you
Mhm.
encourage your students to find their subject?
My subjects are really reminiscent of a lot of childhood memories uh, that I have. I was born in a small town in Oklahoma, and my mother married a gentleman that was in the armed forces. He was from New Jersey. So once he got out of the service in our little small town, we moved to New Jersey, where he was originally from. But all those images of cornfields and barns and cows and wide open spaces and simple life and people that were blue collar workers. I brought all of that with me to New Jersey. So when I started really getting serious about my art after college, it just so happened that my mother was moving from New Jersey. She relocated with her job to an arsenal in Alabama. So when I went to visit her, I just saw all these beautiful people, and they reminded me a lot of the people in my childhood. They would sit on their porch, and they would gossip, and they would just, you know they dressed the way I kind of had seen people in my life dress. So I started getting inspired, and my first body of work were these very simple country scenes and country people, and from there it just really flourished. One of my early influences was Andrew Wyeth, and he painted very simple people, very simple life, very rural scenes, and I wasn't looking to copy him. It just so happened that he was tapping into a lot of the different elements that I found interesting. Just painting truth, whatever your truth is. So rather than trying to mimic or imitate your favorite artist, I would say search for those things in life. If you're a realist painter like myself, search for those things that speak to you rather than trying to copy something that's already been done or you think that's popular.
Mm.
um, and really drill down on that. Take an artist like Jackson Pollock. He's highly original, and I can't say where that comes from, but he really started investigating a style that he really believed in, and it became his life's work. So I would tell artists, just be true to yourself and the stories that you want to tell, and everything else will come.
Speaking of truth, I came across your work through that beautiful documentary called Truth by Jesse Brass. And I have to tell you that when I saw this is a little slightly embarrassing to say, but when I watched it and I saw your portraits, I started to cry.
Oh,
I
thank
did.
you. I can't tell you the amount of people that have told me, men and women, that have cried over that documentary.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. I think it means you channeled like your real presence through
Well,
that
thank you. Thank you.
work.
And it wasn't set out to be a tearjerker. Uh, that wasn't our goal or aim. And I have to admit, when it got to the part about my grandmother and they showed the image on the first edit, when he sent it to me, I teared up.
Yep.
I just, there's something enigmatic about an image, whether you know the backstory or you don't. When it got to that point, it wasn't even about me or the documentary or me being an artist. It was my truth right there on the screen. And life sometimes can beat us up, and you can become jaded and discouraged. But there is such a beauty in the lived experience. You need those downtimes to really appreciate the times where you're on top. You need melancholy, to really appreciate true laughter. You ever ride a roller coaster?
Oh yeah, I'm a fan.
You're a fan. Well, well, I'll use this example. I used to operate a roller coaster at Great Adventure during my high school days, and it starts off and it takes you to this slow build to the top, and then it goes all the way down. Then it reaches the lowest point. Then it slowly builds and it goes all the way back to the top, and it comes down again, and it gives you this rush. And I think that's what life is all about. If it were just like the high times and the good times, you really wouldn't be able to appreciate the valleys.
Mm.
Those low moments where you say, if life can just turn around and I can just feel true exhilaration, true happiness. um you wouldn't really know how to fully experience it unless you've been down in the valley. So I think that's what the video taps into when I'm telling my story.
When I see the portraits, both in the documentary and also in your book, what I feel is this overwhelming sense of love. Like I feel like I'm tangibly seeing your love. And so this leads me to what may be an impossible question. I don't know, maybe. And it made me think, and I thought maybe this is an impossible question. I thought maybe I should have one impossible question per show.
Just a challenge, just to challenge the person you're interviewing. Let's see how I do.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
let's see. So how do you pour love into a painting?
Oof. Wow, that is, oh, wow, good one, Jamie. That's virtually impossible. How do you pour love into a painting? I think you have to be, first of all, a loving person.
Mm,
uh, as a creative person, as an artist, we focus so much on the person's talent and their ability uh, to make something look like something. I think if you are the vessel, you have to empty yourself and really be open and alive and appreciate human beings. I have such an interest in sociology and what makes people tick and
mm,
why they do the things they do. So I'm not coming to the art from a judgmental standpoint. Um, I'm really open, and when I'm painting people, I talk to them. I learn about them. A lot of people that I paint are family members and close friends, and there are certain things, even in a facial expression, there are codes that I know that mean something.
mhm.
When I painted my mother one time, um, she was giving me the look like I'm ready to be done. She never said it. She never said it. So there, when you're painting a person and you want to express your feeling toward them or that love or affection you have for them, it's there are so many different ways to do it, and there are certain things that I don't paint. I can push a line and
Mm,
go over the line and expose a family member or a friend and do things um, that are disrespectful to them that they would feel uncomfortable about. That's also part of the love. So it's in so much as it's what you're painting is what you're not painting. And I just try to be as respectful as possible to the subjects. And a lot of my work has a quiet element to it, a lot of solitude, a lot of single figures, and it just comes out in the way that I express myself.
Well, I think that's a beautiful answer to an impossible question.
Very impossible. I wish I had the answer.
It's a beautiful answer. I love that. And I think again, it sort of even in how you're expressing, I think it comes back to this place of artistic truth of you just being really present with the person and really seeing and sharing what you see and without, like what you said, without judgment and just with some sense of compassion. I feel in all those.
Yes, yes, and there are. I've been painting professionally for 22 years, and in that time, I've matured. I've gotten better at setting a scene or evoking an emotion from a sitter that I wasn't truly able to do as a younger person, having lived more life, having more, how should I say this? Being able to as an adult, be able to talk to older people that I'm painting in a certain way. So I'm able to now really get to the heart of the matter, and pull out things that I wouldn't have been able to pull out 20 years ago. So I'm just getting better at that aspect of it.
So in those 22 years, what would you say has been your greatest challenge? And then how do you deal with it? How do you get through it?
In the beginning of my career, there was, I would say, maybe a 5-year period when I was just on my own trying to climb the mountain of getting a body of work together that I could put into magazines and get the word out, so to speak. But giving up that isolation after about 5 years and getting to a relationship and being more public as an artist, I realized that my time there was an erosion, because now I'm not just negotiating with myself. Do I want to paint 12 hours a day, or do I want to push it and do 13?
Mm-hmm.
So my wife said, if you want to be in a marriage, if you want to be in a relationship, you can no longer paint for 12 hours a day. I thought, wow, that's unfair. But I never thought that was a lot, because when you are absolutely focused on one thing for your whole life,
Yeah.
you become an addict. And what she was trying to do was give me balance. So I scaled it back to 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is still my schedule now. So I started making time for other things and other people in my life, and that's been a challenge because I I don't really have balance when it comes to my work, because when you're an entrepreneur, um, you can justify everything. You can
Right.
justify having the iPad on your lap while you're watching a movie. You can justify having to paint because it's a deadline. So I've become less selfish and putting up partitions between work and private time, and allowing other people to have value in my life. I'm not doing a great job at it, because if they were here, they would probably.
They'd be calling you out on that one.
Yes, they would. Yes, they would. But it's a work in progress that I think all creatives can identify with. I'm not the only
Yeah.
one that loves what I do. I think that's what makes us who and what we are. We love what we do. So that's my biggest challenge that I'm working on still.
Yeah, and I'll attest to the fact that other people can relate. It just really brought home to me. I used to do theater, and I remember my husband saying to me at the time, like, Jamie, like, this is crazy. I'm not seeing you at all. This is like 20 hours
Hmm.
a day. And I'm like, but it's a show, honey. It'll be over. It'll be 3 more days and it's over. And then he was like, and then there'll be the next one. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't actually occurred to me at all that was the rhythm that was being established and it would be the norm. So yeah,
Yes.
you're
Yes. Yes.
if you were looking back on the early days of your career and sort of with the eye of also talking to the person who is listening, who's in the early days, what do you wish somebody had told you?
Hmm. I wish someone had told me that there's going to be a lot of multitasking.
Mm,
In order to live your dream, live your passion, you are going to have to create the infrastructure. And then within that infrastructure, you are the taskmaster of every single thing that happens in your life. It's very different than working a 9 to 5, because there's a built up infrastructure not only on your job but in the world. If I deliver mail, there's an infrastructure in the office, in the post office, but there's also an appreciation in the United States that this is necessary. We need
mm-hmm.
our mail. With art, not so much.
Right.
So what you have to do is spend time convincing people not only why art is important, but why your art is important. So that's just one part of your job that I wish someone would have told me.
Does it feel overwhelming to you, or do you feel like over time that's become something you're very comfortable with?
Uh, I I was very naive, and when I came out of college, I remember standing on the steps of the college, saying, "Well, now I'm an artist. I have to explain this to my mom, but I am an artist." And I think a lot of people look at the fact of making a living, living up to others' expectations, all those realistic things get in the way. Me personally, I focused on the quality of the work, what I had to say, and I just believed that that was going to carry the day.
Right.
And looking back on it is very delusional.
Mm.
But I think that burying your head in the sand and really believing in what you're doing and wanting it more than anything can block a lot of that negativity and a lot of that self-doubt. It can totally block it out. And I'm glad that it did, because if I would have looked at all the challenges and known everything that was ahead, it would have it would have stopped me, and I
Mm.
would have taken the easy way out. I know it can be daunting. I know it can look like a heavy lift, but if you are passionate, if you just so happen to be one of the best people working today, which is not impossible through hard work, you can overcome a lot of those obstacles and make your art or whatever you're doing every day relevant in the culture. But you have to be honest with yourself too. You can work on it, but you have to be honest to know where you are. And you can't really look at competition. It's not a competition, but this is something that people are going to have to purchase. They're going to absolutely have to feel like they need it. You have to be realistic. As much as you can block out a lot of the doubt, like I did, in my heart of hearts, I knew that on top of everything, I knew I was willing to work hard every day.
Right. And what's inspiring you right now?
Right now, for the last year, I've been focusing on younger people. I did a lecture 2 years ago, a slide lecture at Syracuse University, and I took them through my body of work. I have thousands of paintings and drawings, but I chose things that were very personal to me, my grandparents, my parents, my friends, and a lot of the stories that correlate with the art. Uh, there's some tragic tales in there. There's some cautionary tales. There's alcoholism, issues of life.
Right.
And when I turned the lights on, I saw the students' faces. Some of them were traumatized.
Mm.
They loved the art. A few people came up to me for various reasons and thanked me, and they could tap in because everyone has a grandparent, everyone has a parent. Um, However, they were only connecting on a surface level. The art was the thing that kind of brought us together more than anything. And I started realizing is they couldn't fully see themselves in my art. So I wanted to take that opportunity to investigate um, how I could implement younger people into my work. You know, a lot of young people get a bad rap, especially millennials.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're dead behind the eyes, they're self absorbed. But I just felt like it was the artist's job to pull something out of these subjects. They have issues just like the rest of us. Now, it might be trying to get the latest iPhone. That's very true. That's they also have that, but some of us are very shallow as older people. Um, but at the base of it, we all want the same things. And what I looked at when I started talking to some of the models and the people that I've been painting, they do represent the future, but they're very uncertain as to how they personally are going to travail and go through life. getting into the right school, the employment situation in our country, the changing demographics of careers. So they have real concerns when you start engaging them on that level. And I just started painting some of their stories and bringing that to life, and it's been just as revelatory and
Mm.
inspiring as some of the other subjects that I've done, whose stories are already written. And it's almost like a cheap trick. You can pull that out of an older person and paint wrinkles and paint a lived experience, but can you challenge yourself as an artist and tell someone's story who's on the way up?
Ah, your turn for an impossible question.
It's like a lightning round.
Well, I cannot wait to see what you do with that. And so I will be watching, and I'm sure other people will be watching and listening too. Can you share with us where people can find you?
Yes, my website is Mario A, that's my middle name, middle initial, Robinson.com. And I'm also on Instagram, Mario A. Robinson, and Facebook, Mario A. Robinson.
Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your perspective and your insight. And your work moves me, and what you've said here today moves me. So I'm so glad we've connected, and I really appreciate all you've shared.
Thank you. It's been so great spending time with you, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Mario.
Thank you.
For homework this week, let's explore what Mario had to say about finding your subject. Search for those things that speak to you rather than copy what's already been done or what you think is popular. This week, pay attention to what's calling you. Follow your own hand and trust your own instincts. Notice what catches your eye and speaks to your heart. And if this show speaks to your heart, please share it. And stop by iTunes and leave us a great review. It really makes a difference to the show and to me. Thanks so much for listening. I am so glad we have this time together. Let's hang out together again real soon.